What is a Medicaid trust in Alabama? The first thing to note is that there is no such thing as just one Medicaid trust. That's kind of just a term of art to denote a trust that is used in the Medicaid planning or Medicaid asset protection context. The second thing to note is Medicaid is a federal program that is administered by the states. So you've got 50 states and 50 state Medicaid agencies that are running those Medicaid programs, which means 50 different rules for 50 different Medicaid programs. It's very clunky. So it's going to be state specific here. In Alabama, there's two main types of Medicaid trusts, at least that I'm aware of. The first is a crisis planning tool. That is when someone, you or your loved one, is going into a nursing home right now, and we need to get Medicaid eligible, but we have too many assets or too much income in order to do that. There's two kind of types of Medicaid crisis trusts. So really there's three kind of Medicaid trusts in Alabama. The first is an income only trust. That's a trust that your excess income goes into that trust. It's funneled through to the nursing home so that if you make more in income than the maximum amount, it's a little under $3,000 a month. If you make more than that, you pop your excess income into the Medicaid trust and you can become Medicaid eligible that way. Those are called qualified income trusts or Miller trusts for short. The second type of Medicaid crisis planning trust is what we call a D4C trust. This is a trust that allows you to place assets into it that can get you Medicaid eligible, even though you have excess assets. You move them to the trust, you become Medicaid eligible. Well, that sounds too good to be true. What's the catch? Well, there are a few catches. There's three main downsides to this type of trust. One is that it can only be spent on the Medicaid recipient. So you can't put assets in there and then have it pay for, your spouse's car payment or something like that. The second thing is those trusts require what we call a Medicaid payback provision. So if there's money left in the trust at the time of the Medicaid recipient's death, the state Medicaid agency gets first dibs to recoup what they spent on the Medicaid recipient up until their death. So if they paid for 10 months in a nursing home at $10,000 a month, then they would be entitled to recoup $100,000 from whatever's left in that trust. The third drawback to that type of trust, and this one people miss a lot, is that retirement accounts are countable in Alabama. They are not countable in all states. That's a countable resource. If you have more than $2,000 in a retirement account, you are not getting on long-term care Medicaid in Alabama. Not every state is like that, but in Alabama, those are countable resources, both yours and your spouse's IRAs. So if you have an IRA or 401k or TSP or 403b or what have you, and you want to get on Medicaid, those have either got to be spent down or they have to be put in a trust or do something like a Medicaid compliant annuity, which has some unique rules in Alabama that we'll hit on in another video. But I want to focus on the Medicaid trust here. In order to put an IRA into this D4C trust, you have to spend it down and liquidate it and pay the taxes on it, which may not be the best idea. So that's the first type of Medicaid trust, is the crisis planning trusts. And under that, we have qualified income trusts, or those income only trusts, and then the D4C trust. They're both good tools. It's just they both have pros and cons, and nothing's a magic bullet. The second kind of Medicaid trust or category of Medicaid trust in Alabama is the pre-planning trust. This trust is designed to work around that dreaded 5-year look-back period and get you the following benefits. It allows you to transfer property to a trust that you are not trustee of and you are not lifetime beneficiary of, at least with regard to the principal in that trust. Income and principal are different, but the principal, that cash in the trust or that house in the trust, you're not technically a lifetime beneficiary of that trust for those assets. Now, here's some more information on trusts like that. You can retain some control even though you're not trustee, and some rights. You can retain some control and some rights even though you're not trustee. So first, you can maintain a right to use and occupy real estate that is in the trust. Okay. So if you transfer your home into this trust, even though you're not trustee, you're not lifetime beneficiary, you can still retain the right to live in your home. So that's pretty powerful. That can get us some Medicaid lien protection. We use that fairly frequently for our clients. You can also maintain the right to change the trustee. So if that trustee is not doing things to your liking, or you just want to change them at any time, you can do that. You can also change beneficiaries of that trust as long as you're not a beneficiary. Can't write yourself in. You can also sometimes maintain the right to income in that trust. Like if you have a brokerage account or a whole life policy that you put into that trust with your other law attorney's help, of course, you can maintain in some instances a right to the income of those assets, which can be popular with our clients that like to live off their income and they don't like to touch their principal. We have a fair amount of clients like that. So the pre-planning trust, that second kind of trust, is for when we're working around the 5-year look-back period and we want to do some pre-planning to make sure our kids or whomever get some assets and it doesn't all go to the state Medicaid agency if you have to go into a nursing home and get Medicaid eligible.